everyone, welcome to Prairie Adventures. I'm Marty Drutt with the Interpretive Program, based in beautiful Police Point Park. We're managed by Grasslands Naturalists. We bring you quality programming all year long. So today, I'm at the Heritage Pavilion in Strathcona Island Park. There's a man-made pond here now, but this area was once an island all the way into the early part of the 20th century. Then, major flooding and damage forced the city to build a dike to protect the area. And finally, in the early 1980s, a park was constructed and opened here with island remaining in the name only. So this was part of a major planning process for green spaces and parks that the city undertook in the late 1970s. It also led to the formation and opening of Lions and Police Point parks. Now this pond used to be part of the old river channel that separated the island section from the mainland. Now these artificial ponds can do some of the things that a natural wetland can do. We find the endangered northern leopard frog here, and beavers have taken up residence here as well. But there are some issues. So unfortunately, people have released goldfish, an invasive species, into this pond. And that can threaten the leopard frog by eating the eggs or the young. So folks, please, with your unwanted pets, don't let them go in the wild. Either give them to someone else or take them back to the pet store or contact the SPCA to see if they will take them for you. Now we have lots of really interesting water places and wetlands in our community. Some of them are really well known and some of them are not. And whether they are recognized by you or you're unsure about the source, they're still important in their own way. And we're going to be highlighting some of these areas for you today. And also we hope to motivate everyone to get out and explore some of the great natural features that are found here in the city of Medicine Hat. There are a number of stormwater retention ponds here in Medicine Hat. Lisa Bay is at one of the oldest ones located in northeast Crescent Heights, and she's going to tell us all about the things that are going on there.
Thanks, Marty. I'm Lisa, and I'm here at the pond near the Northlands Co-op in Crescent Heights, and I'm going to talk to you about the fact that not all wetlands are naturally occurring. Some, in fact, are man-made, such as this one. This pond was actually built as a way to control stormwater runoff. We call it a retention basin. What that means, what retention basins do, is a variety of things. They help catch excess stormwater runoff, which then prevents flooding. They also help prevent erosion downstream. They help to keep the water clean in the adjacent body of water, which in our case would be the South Saskatchewan River. It doesn't necessarily have to be a river. It could be a lake, a stream, or even a bay. But they help to keep that water clean. And really, most importantly, again, is that flood prevention. What it does is it collects all that excess water from a storm, and then it allows it to slowly be released out into the ecosystem. Now, this particular pond was built in 2001, and as you can see, it's very well established by now. It looks just like any other pond you might find around here. So it has two really important functions. That first one, again, is to help control the stormwater, but the second one is it provides really valuable habitat and a really important wetland ecosystem in Medicine Hat. So if we look around, we've got the common plants that you would see in any ecosystem. We've got our plains cottonwood trees, we've got our willows growing, and of course we have the cattails, some of the really common plants that you might see around here. Now, all of the plants and the pond itself support a wide variety of wildlife. As you can hear, there's plenty of birds living in this area. You've got the distinct oakley call of the red-winged blackbird. They're really neat because they actually build their nests right in the cattails. You have one of my favorite birds. You have the great blue heron. You also have a smaller heron called the black-crowned night heron. Now what the herons do is they stand perfectly still on the edge of the water and they wait for a fish to swim by. Then, quick as lightning, they spear that fish with their long beaks and they swallow them whole. It's pretty impressive. Other birds that you can find, of course, swimming in our pond, we've got some ducks, quite a few species of ducks. You're going to have your Canada geese. Using all of the plant life around the pond, you're going to have things like magpies, grackles, robins, chickadees, a number of birds. If you're lucky, you might see a bunny or another small mammal come down to the water's edge for a drink. If you're really lucky, you might see a coyote come by, not only for a drink, but maybe for some lunch as well. So that's just a few of the species that live here. We also have beautiful dragonflies and butterflies flying all around. So even though this particular wetland is man-made, it still provides a really important habitat and ecosystem in this area. Now there are two pretty major concerns with this particular pond. The first one is goldfish, and I mean the goldfish that you would buy at the pet store and keep at home as a pet. Unfortunately, a lot of people realize that these fish probably lived a little longer than they thought they would, or that they just don't want the care of the fish anymore. And what they've done is they've actually released them into this pond. And that can be a really big problem, especially for the native fish that live here. For one, these goldfish, when left in a pond this size, they can grow to a really incredible size. And they outcompete the native fish. Not only do they take up the space that those native fish would have, but they eat the food that's available for the other fish, and that's a limited supply. These goldfish are pretty aggressive and they'll eat just about anything. They'll eat the plants, they'll eat plankton, they'll eat the eggs of other fish, they'll even eat the native fish themselves. They can get pretty big, like I said. And because these stormwater basins are actually connected to the river system, these goldfish can then easily spread into many, many other bodies of water, as all those river systems are connected as well. So they can really be a problem. Another problem that we have here at this particular pond is unfortunately litter. There is a lot of it. It's floating through the cattails and all through the pond, and that can be really hazardous to the wildlife that live here. So number one, if you ever see anyone dumping goldfish, we ask that you should call bylaw and have them stop that. And number two, just be responsible and respectful and help to take care of our wetlands, even the man-made ones. They're all really important. There are signs posted all around because this is intended to be a stormwater basin. The city does not want people swimming or fishing from this pond. It just wasn't a good idea. However, that does not mean that you can't enjoy this beautiful site. There's a great trail that goes all the way around. There's even benches where you can sit and enjoy the view and the sound. So it's really a great place to come by, and it's just really right in your own backyard or pretty close to it. So please come by and enjoy this great little kind of hidden wetland that we have here. And remember that just because it's not naturally occurring, it does not mean that it's not important to our ecosystem. Back to you, Marty.
Some of the lesser known water features in our area are the many springs that dot the coulee hillsides. Val Martin's is at Lucier Springs, just above the Riverside neighborhood, to tell us all about its cultural and ecological significance.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Marty. Yes, I'm Val from the Interpretive Program. I'm here to show you wetlands. Look, it's all around here. This is Lucier Springs. It's a very unusual kind of spring because it's a mineral spring in that the water is pushed up through the ground, and when it comes up, it brings all those minerals like calcium, magnesium up with it, and then those deposits are left here on the banks, and they keep building up over time. But of course, we have the spring that feeds it, and it trickles it down all the way down here, all the way down to Riverside. And of course, this is the main part, but it also branches out into 3 or 4, depending on how much water, different areas. But this is a great habitat. I've seen ducks up here. I've seen lots of birds. I've even seen deer here. Insects, of course. And we have all kinds of interesting plants. We got bulrushes, we have regular rushes, we have sedges, and we have the special kind of brown moss that's growing on the rocks here, and some even the green moss. And again, we have a algae that's here as well. Special kind of algae that grows in these areas. It's a bright green, and well, there's more to be discovered here. This spring has been used over the years. Originally, back in the 1900s, a man named Lucier actually had his farm up on top. He actually had a dairy herd, and he actually was watering his cows from this water. And of course, he used it for his own self. And then it trickles down right down into Riverside, where Hargrave Ranch was. Hargrave Ranch was a big ranch, and it was basically from St. Patrick's Church all the way to Burnside. And the water came down, and they were able to water their alfalfa crop with it. He actually put an alfalfa field right there along the hill and up to his property. So that was great use. And then at some point, Hargrave actually donated much of the land, including the land over here that takes you up to Crescent Heights. And that, of course, that road was built, but it was much narrower and just made of gravel at that time. But then back to the spring was actually used again when they built a trailer park there. There's a trailer park and the stream, or they called it a stream, they called it a brook. The trailer court was called Brookside. And the water actually ran right through the trailer park until it was capped off by the city in the 1900s, and now it goes right into a sewer drain. But it's still a very interesting place to explore. But I have to warn you, it's very steep, very slippery, and the calcium deposits that come up here are rough and very sharp. So you have to be prepared for that. So it's probably best if you just look at it from above, over on the trail system, or if you're down on Riverside, you can go on the walkway that takes you over the train bridge. And that will also give you a good view of this beautiful wetlands.
Seven Persons Creek winds through the heart of our fair city, eventually joining up with Ross Creek just to the east of Strathcona Island Park, and then going quickly into the South Saskatchewan River. Corleen Gardner is along a section of Seven Persons Creek to tell us more about its key features and opportunities.
Thanks, Marty. I'm Corleen Gardner, and today I'm in Kincooley Park, beside Seven Persons Creek, one of our flowing wetlands. We have two creeks and the river that flow through town, as well as lots of other wetlands. Now here in Kincooley, we've got the creek, we've got the relatively flat playing fields, and we've got some very steep sides. It's a pretty big valley for a rather small creek. That's another story, though, relating to our glaciation history. Thinking about the creek, it comes in from the southwest of the city, through the valley below the teepee, through here in the park, under three major roads, Dunmore Road, Sholton Hill, and Highway 41A, meets up with Ross Creek, and then they join the South Saskatchewan River. Fortunately for us, our trail system follows the creek. If you pick up the new trail guide, you will see that there's a trail along most of the length of Seven Persons Creek. A lot of the other trails also focus on our wetlands and our coulee system. We're very fortunate to have such an extensive trail system, and it leads us where we want to go, to the wetlands. We tend to gravitate towards water. Think about holidays, even if it's just an afternoon off. Where do we head but to the water? Whether we're going fishing or swimming, a stroll along the shoreline, taking pictures, or just sitting and relaxing, we really gravitate towards water. We like to be near wetlands. But that can bring some challenges. Water is a real attraction, but if we build too close to water, we're asking for problems. Now here in Kincooley, let's look around. We've got the mowed areas on the flat, which is great for picnics and community celebrations and ball fields and all that. Down here though, it's not mowed, and that's good. It allows the creek to be wild. This longer grassy area and the shrubbery provide homes for all sorts of wildlife. You can hear the birds in the background. They're busy nesting, finding lunch, guarding their territory and doing all their bird things. Less obvious are the small mammals and the amphibians. But if you spend time along our wetlands, maybe you'll see mink, or hear some rustles in the grass, hear some frogs in the creek. There's all sorts of other things that live right down in the creek as well. The plants along here obviously provide lots of homes for the wildlife, but they're doing more than that. If we look at the shoreline, those plants, from the cattails floating in the water to the shrubs and grass on the land, are actually protecting the shore. They anchor the shoreline, preventing or slowing down erosion, and so they slow down the flow of the water as well. And that's really important, especially in high water. Now, prairie streams vary a lot in height. Sometimes they're almost dry, sometimes they're bubbling right over their banks. And then Seven Persons Creek in particular has the added input of irrigation water outflow. So it goes up and down quite a bit. In times of real high water, it comes right up over the bank and across the floodplain. That is, after all, what a floodplain is. It's a place for the water to flow when there's not enough room down in the creek bank or the creek bed itself. We like to be by water. If we build in the floodplain, we're asking for troubles. But we also like to manage things, and we like to think that we can control water. No, we can adjust it, we can do some things, but we actually can't control the power of water. It's incredibly powerful as it sculpts the valley. A creek naturally moves. On the outside of a bend, it's always eroding a little bit. On the inside of a bend, sediment is accumulating. So a creek or a river naturally moves back and forth across its valley. It's really quite fascinating if you can look at historic pictures and see how they do change. However, we get a little upset if it erodes and undercuts our trail, or worse yet, a bridge or a building. So then we get in there and start trying to manage things. Here in King Coulee, there's some areas that are great. The creek has some room to move. There's other areas where you'll see rock-lined shores. For some reason, there's an issue there and the creek can't be allowed to move, and so it's been rocked. Now, hard rocking the shore can help with one problem, but it often creates more. We really need to work with nature, get some plants in there to do their job, and try and work a softer way to manage that creek flow. We're really fortunate to have the creeks and the other wetlands throughout Medicine Hat and the trail system to go around with it. I hope that as you're traveling through the city, whether driving over the bridges or walking along the trails or enjoying our parks, that you notice the creeks, see what's happening with them today. I'd even like to offer you a little challenge. Pick up a trail map and walk the entire length of Seven Persons Creek within the city limits, sometime over the next couple of weeks. See the different characters along the different stretches of the creek. It's a great resource for our city. It's a wonderful area to enjoy, and there's always something new to see and do. I'll see you down at Police Point, or maybe out on the trails.
Hi, I'm Valerie Martins. I'm here today with Sarah McPike. Sarah has been brought down by the Grassland Naturalist to do a special presentation. Once a month we have a special presenter who comes to speak on us on environmental issues, conservation, and the natural world. And of course, Sarah used to work here, and she became quite a very well-liked, and we really enjoy having you back again. And you did such a wonderful presentation last night, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. Now, you are actually doing a master's degree, and you're working on wasps. Mm-hmm. Now, wasps, the word wasp sometimes scares people.
Yes.
Is there something that you could tell us that will maybe change people's minds on what they're feeling about wasps are?
Yeah. So usually when people hear the word wasp, they immediately think of yellow jackets. And you're right, they have a very negative idea of what wasps are and what they do. So firstly, yellow jacket wasps are actually very beneficial to the environment. And as scavengers that go around and eat other dead insects and dead animals. They're a great cleanup crew in nature. And of course, they don't want to sting people. They just do that to defend their nests. But so I would argue that yellow jackets are beneficial insects. But also, wasps are extremely diverse, and there's lots of different kinds. So yellow jackets are the ones that people see the most. They're quite large, they're colorful, but the vast majority of wasps, so insects in the insect order Hymenoptera, the vast majority are tiny little wasps that are parasitoids. So a parasitoid is an insect that lays its egg in a host, which is usually another insect, sometimes a spider, and the larva of that insect grows inside the host and eventually kills it.
Oh, that's very interesting. Now, you mentioned diversity. Well, we know about the yellow jackets for sure, but now, what other kinds or what sizes are we talking about here?
So yeah, as I mentioned, yellow jackets are the wasps we usually see. There are parasitoid wasps that can be quite large, but people are usually surprised to hear that there are thousands of parasitoids in Canada that are a millimeter or less in length. So these are tiny, tiny wasps. So in the yellow jackets, in most of the wasps, the egg-laying tube is modified to be a stinger, which is one of the reasons people don't like yellow jackets. But in most wasps, females have an ovipositor. So that elongated thing at the back of their abdomen is actually a tube for laying eggs. So all these tiny wasps are ovipositing or laying their eggs in a host. And because that eventually kills that insect, we can try and use parasitoid wasps as biological controls.
Now that's very interesting. Now that's what you're doing your thesis on, right? On parasitic wasps?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. So working with the University of Alberta in the Evandon lab, where I'm doing my master's, as well as with the City of Edmonton Pest Management Lab, we are working on helping to control a horticultural tree pest. So it's the ash leaf cone roller caterpillar that does aesthetic damage to the ash trees in Edmonton. And there is a native parasitoid wasp that is in the family Burconidae that has started to use that caterpillar as its host. So the City of Edmonton and lots of centers have an integrated pest management approach. So we try to use principles that we learn from nature to try and support natural pest controls like wasps that can help control things like the ash leaf cone roller. So my project is looking at a few different aspects of this, but one of them is using natural organic chemical scents that the wasp can detect to try and attract it to the ash trees to parasitize the caterpillars. We are encountering that it is difficult to try and manipulate insects in nature, especially in the city, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of different plants that are planted both by the city and by the citizens, and there are roads and industry, and so when you're trying to attract the insects to a smell, there's a lot of competing chemicals out there that you have to work with. So there are definitely challenges, but it's great to see that this parasitoid is making a difference in the numbers of ash leaf cone roller in Edmonton. Parasitoids have been successfully used in agricultural settings and especially in greenhouses where you can control the conditions. You can use parasitoid wasps to help control pests. And then of course you don't have to use sprays because the pest doesn't get to be in high numbers. So it has been really interesting learning about the diversity of wasps and how they can be used as biological controls.
Kincooley harbors a wonderful wetland in the park. We often go there to do pond programs because there are no natural wetlands in Police Point Park. Our two summer staff, Manveen Singh and Sophie Fillion, are there, and they're going to tell you about things that are a little less obvious that you can find if you look just really carefully.
Thanks, Marty. Hi, I'm Sophie Fillion.
And I'm Manveen Singh.
and we're summer students at the Nature Center.
Today we're at the King Cooley Dock behind the Lorne Holden Baseball Diamond. It's a great place to relax and enjoy the outdoors.
It is really nice down here, but it's so much more than just nice, you know. It's a wetland, and this is not just any wetland, this is a natural wetland. So what's special about this wetland? Well, it is an old oxbow formation of a 7th-person creek, and it is different than any other wetlands in the city.
The dock is pretty special too. It was built by the city to allow us to get closer to the wetland. Here we can see wildlife up close without harming it, we can look into the water, and we can experience the transition between the upland, the riparian area, and the wetland itself.
Well, it looks pretty healthy to me.
But what makes a wetland healthy?
Well, you can see it's a good riparian zone. We have a good amount of cattails around here, and which shows that, you know, it's doing its job and everything's in order.
But what about the biodiversity around here?
Well, if you just stop and look and see, you know, you can see and hear all kinds of birds, ducks, and all the insects, you know, creeping and stuff. So yeah, it is a good place to be when you're enjoying out.
And what does biodiversity mean exactly?
Well, biodiversity means the variety of life around us, and, you know, probably in an ecosystem if you want to put it in a dictionary term.
Okay. Maintaining biodiversity is one of the most important functions of a wetland.
Yep.
Here we can find it's a habitat for all kinds of animals and plants and critters.
For the native plants, we have a lot of cattails and willows around here that stabilize the shore and, you know, prevent erosion. And then these willows and cattails provide home for the blackbirds and leopard frogs, which you should know are endangered, and it's, you know, you should not catch them.
Well, everything we're talking about is native, it belongs here, and it's helpful to the wetland. What about things that don't belong?
Yeah, for sure. As you know, we have weeds everywhere around us, and this area is no exclusion to that. We have dandelions, we have Russian olive. It is a tree from Russia. It's not native here, it is introduced. So what it does is it competes with the natural cottonwoods, so it doesn't let them grow and competes for sunlight, water, and just, you know, chokes them out.
That's not good.
That is not good, especially for people who, you know, who are trying to come here to enjoy the scenery, and when they expect biodiversity, they don't get to see it. So that's what these trees do.
But what about the biodiversity in the water? Can we take a look at some of those critters?
Oh yeah, we actually this morning scooped out a lot of invertebrates and critters. So we identified using this book.
This booklet, you can find it at the Nature Center. It's part of our display right now, so you can come check that out.
Just to name a few, we have water mites, copepods, a lot of sea shrimps here, and we have a predaceous diving beetle that we caught. We also caught a water boatman and a dragonfly nymph.
The seed shrimps really do look like seeds. They kind of swim around, they have a lot of legs to
And
move
there's
them.
tons of them.
They're everywhere, so you can come find some. I've also noticed a lot of duckweed around here. What is its function?
Well, first of all, just to clear this thing, a lot of people think it's algae, but it's quite not. It's actually very good for the riparian zone, and the more of it, the better it is for the riparian zone. A lot of birds, ducks, no, it's food for them, and just critters live around under them, and, you know, it's a very good part of the environment.
It seems like wetlands in general get kind of a bad reputation, but we actually need them, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Well, people think they're mosquito breeding grounds, but it is true, but not quite here, because this is a very healthy wetland, and the mosquito nymphs and the larvae, they're not quite much, since this pond has a lot of predators. So this is what gets it under control, and it's a very good environment to be around.
Everything's in balance.
Yep.
So if you're interested in learning more about wetlands, the King Cooley Dock is a great place to do it. Or you can come down to the Nature Center or call us on the Nature Line. Hope you've enjoyed learning about wetlands. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on Prairie Adventures. As you can see, there's lots of water places and wetlands for you to get out and explore. If you want to know more about any of these, give us a call to the Nature Line at 403-529-6225. Or better yet, come down to the Nature Center, visit us in person. Remember, the Nature Center is open all year long, Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 5. I'm Marty Drutt. For all our presenters, we hope to see you soon.